Alright guys, we have been treated to a fantastic weekend of Championship football and we are here to round up all of the weekend's action. Plenty of talking points to jump into today, and as always want to get your thoughts in the comments down below. Also a quick plug for the TikTok as well. If you're not already following, make sure to go ahead and check it out. We are posting regular videos over there at the moment. 300 likes on today's video would be massively appreciated. But without any further ado, let's jump in. Starting out with Friday night's game at Ewood Park, and I have to say this one was a cracker. Blackburn 1, Preston 2, and to be honest, Blackburn played some pretty tidy football and were probably quite unlucky to have not snatched at least a point from this one. They were quite unlucky to go in at half time, 1 goal down. They'd hit the crossbar twice, but it was a fantastic goal worked by Preston. Brilliant switch of play by Brad Potts, then the technique by Alan Brown to take the ball down, and a smashing finish. I was a little bit concerned with Sammy Smodics popping up with his 10th goal of the season early into that second half that this one might have got away from North End, but I thought low utilised the second half substitutes really quite well. And Liam Lindsay just has a knack for turning up with these big important goals, a last minute winner in this game. So I had a decent feeling about North End coming into this one. We certainly had to ride our luck at times. And I do think Blackburn will pick up a reasonable amount of points this season, playing that fluid sort of football. It was just maybe that little bit of experience that told in the North End squad in the end, perhaps. Birmingham fans won't have been left impressed with their performance against Sunderland. Alex says, horrendous stuff from Rooney's lads again. Defensively shambolic. Haven't seen our defending this bad since Karanka. I'm not sure an international break will improve everything. 3-1 against Sunderland in this game since Rooney's took over. I think that's now 5 games in charge, 11 goals conceded in that time. So with Wayne Rooney at the helm, Birmingham are conceding on average more than 2 goals a game, which is a concerning pattern. A couple of set piece scenarios were really Birmingham's undoing in this one. Sunderland obviously pinpointed that as a potential weakness here from Birmingham. I think in the end it was a justifiable 3 points, accumulating an XG of over 3 in this one for Sunderland. They had 22 shots, and while Birmingham did get into a few decent areas themselves, their lacklustre defensive shape was ultimately their undoing. Thankfully for Rooney, after this international break, the fixtures do start to ease up ever so slightly for them, and they have to be penciling in some improvements because what we've seen from them recently has been a little bit concerning. Great win for Sunderland though. Jake, who's a Norwich fan, says, we actually won, but we only scraped a win today. Every time we concede one, our heads drop and normally the goals go flying in. Again, we were lucky today. I don't think Wagner is going to make Christmas though. Yeah, big win for Norwich there, and potentially goes ahead and affords Wagner that little bit more time after this international break, although I'm still not totally convinced that would be the right decision. I've got a feeling that it would just be delaying the inevitable. Do I see him as the right man long term for Norwich? After this disastrous run, I'm not really sure. Some nice moments of play from Cardiff. Callum Robinson in particular looked like a real standout performer. Thought he did really well for setting up the first goal and then takes the second one really nicely. But credit to Norwich, when they usually do fall behind, that's where they tend to crumble, as Jake says there. But this time they did get the fight back on. What could potentially go in Wagner's favour is after the international break, Norwich do have a fairly favourable run of fixtures coming up. Their 3 after the international break are against QPR, Watford and Bristol City. I think there's a decent amount of points that could be collected there by this Norwich side. But once again, I think I agree with Jake where I'm not sure he makes it until Christmas, and even on the back of a win, it would probably be easier to use this international break as an opportunity to sound out some new managers. But Norwich fans, I welcome your comments on that down below. Darth Ikea says, better from Coventry, take a draw after our run, played 4 at the back and 3 up top like you said, and it worked well. Godden, Sims and Wright all unlucky not to score, so looks like much better times ahead. Yeah, a decent point there I'd say for both teams in this one. Stoke will take the point away from home, continues their recent unbeaten run, and obviously Coventry put a stop to the losing rot that they've been on recently. In their previous fixture against North End, I thought that Coventry looked a lot more fluid going up through the gears when they switched to a 4 at the back in the second half, and that forward 3 of Godden, Sims and Wright. I do think there's plenty of goals to be had there, and like the comment said there, all of them probably quite unlucky not to score in this one. In terms of the chances, it was Coventry who slightly edged it in this one against Stoke, but Alex Neil's men defended well. It's now back-to-back consecutive goalless draws for Stoke, and only Coventry's 4th clean sheet of the season there. This Hull fan says we should have won by 5 or 6, but there's nothing like a late winner, and I think that's probably quite a fair reflection on this game. Huddersfield not threatening Hull in this match whatsoever, and it did seem like constant pressure from Liam Rosenior's men, but it did take them until the final stages of this game for Liam Delap to break the deadlock. Ultimately, Huddersfield came into this game with an incredibly defensive approach that somewhat reminded me of how Rotherham have gone into a lot of away matches so far this season. I was taking a look into both sides' average positions in this game, and Huddersfield looked like they were camped incredibly deep and didn't really have any sort of breakaways, couldn't really string together that many successive passes, and it really was about Hull playing the ball around and eventually finding that breakthrough. Now, Darren Moore could turn around and say the game plan almost worked. A point away at Hull would have been a decent result there for Huddersfield, but this game really just seemed like a matter of time before Hull went ahead and opened the scoring. That's now just 1 win in 10 for Huddersfield, which is really quite concerning. Raving Engineer says, great performance from Ipswich, direct and fast attacks, on track for more than 100 points and 100 goals. We do need to concede less and stop making life difficult for ourselves though. Yeah, Ipswich fans were treated to another absolute classic at Portman Road, with Swansea taking the lead early in this one, only for Jack Taylor to respond with one of the strikes of the season, and obviously Ipswich then went on to flip this game on its head. I was doing a bit of a dig into the amount of goals that Ipswich fans have been treated to in home matches so far this season, and it's absolutely off the charts. In terms of value for money and an entertainment factor, Ipswich are seriously being treated. In the 8 home matches they've played so far this season, Ipswich have seen 40 goals, both for Ipswich and the opposition playing them. That's an average of 5 goals per game that Ipswich is seeing right now at Portman Road, which is absolutely off the charts. Now, like the comment says there, what could potentially be Ipswich's undoing is that defensive record. I think when compared to both Leicester and Leeds, who are the other obvious promotion challengers, Ipswich are significantly more vulnerable in that department. But I think that especially the way they go about home matches, maybe that just comes along with the territory of that fast and direct attacking style, you know, pinning men forward. Those gaps are always going to be left open. Now, after the international break, it's a really interesting run that Ipswich have got, particularly in the later stages of December. They've got 3 consecutive games against Norwich, Leeds and Leicester, and that week right there could be absolutely pivotal for Ipswich's promotion chances come the end of the season. But another absolute classic in this game with some great attacking play. Jack Crawford, who's a Leeds fan, says, great although nervy last 10 minutes once Plymouth got their goals. Yeah, I have to admit there was some brilliant attacking play on display from Leeds in this one, particularly in the first half where they were really going for the throat of Plymouth. That forward quartet can be absolutely irresistible. I think that each of Dan James, Perot, Somerville and Rutter each bring their own characteristics and traits, and in this Daniel Farke system, their 1 and 2 touch play can just be absolutely fantastic. Somerville with some lovely touches once again. He's been a real standout performer for Leeds so far this season, but James and Perot with the goals in this one. And like the comment says there, did look quite a nervy last 10 minutes, especially when Plymouth did get that goal, and had Leeds conceded late on once again, given some of the chances that they had earlier in this game to really put it to bed, that would have been a real shot in the foot for Daniel Farke's side. But can't really complain about Leeds right now. That's now 3 consecutive wins heading into this international break, and coming out on the back of this and coming off the back of this international break, some pretty winnable fixtures for Leeds coming up as well. Brad says, Borough were excellent. Leicester very much the best side we've seen this season, and we've produced a fabulous display to beat them. That 1.5 million purchase option we've got in Sam Greenwood's loan agreement looks like an absolute steal. Yeah, what a free kick that was. I had this game as a 1-1 draw, I think, in my predictions, and it seemed to be heading to a stalemate up until Greenwood produced that absolute moment of magic towards the end of the game. But a tight game, obviously. Leicester now back-to-back losses in the Championship, 2 quite tight games they've been involved in, 1-0 losses against Leeds and now Middlesbrough. Have to admit, Leicester did get into some really good goal-scoring areas in this match. It just wasn't quite to be for them in the final third. But credit to Middlesbrough for posing their own questions, keeping this Leicester attack out, which has been so formidable so far this season, and then Greenwood coming up with that moment of magic. Given how many points Leicester have got on the board already, it's tough to go too much in on them, and I think on another day, they probably could have won this game. had they been that little bit more clinical in the final third, but real credit to Middlesbrough. That's the sort of performance which I think backs up a lot of people's theories that they will be in amongst this promotion race come the end of the season. Liam says the QPR against Bristol City game was a snooze fest. Both teams lacking quality, possibly has to be up there as the most boring game of the season, and going off the numbers, I wouldn't be surprised. Both teams accumulating a minuscule XG in this one, only 2 shots on target between both sides in the 90 minutes here, and I mean ultimately it's two relatively new managers in their job. Obviously Sheff Wed is his second game in charge of QPR and Manning's first game in charge of Bristol City, so still figuring things out with how they want their teams to play, and ultimately I think we got a game here where both teams cancelled each other out, where there wasn't really much to write home about. Millwall under Joe Edwards looked like a completely different side. I know it's against Wednesday, who ain't the best, but I've never seen Millwall go for more goals after they take the lead. It's so refreshing to watch this new type of football, and I can't wait to see more under Edwards. Yeah, it was a little bit of a hangover that Millwall had been having in the post-Gary Rowett era, sort of meandering around looking for that new boss. Hadn't picked up a win since they parted company with Rowett, but in comes Edwards, and what an opening performance that was. 4-0 against Sheffield Wednesday, and like the comment says there, we probably can't get too carried away with this because it is against one of the weakest sides we've ever seen at championship level. But with that being said, I'm really intrigued to see how this new style of football goes forward for Millwall, because the typical Gary Rowett setup previously would have been for Millwall to take the lead and then look to edge it in quite a tight fashion, look to shut up shop, but it doesn't appear as if that will be the case whatsoever under Edwards. And I think this change of philosophy is probably what Millwall have been in need of, really. Obviously in the Rowett era they grind out consistent results, but from an entertainment factor I'm really looking forward to seeing what Edwards can deliver. After the international break there will be some sterner tests coming up for this Millwall side than what they got in this game against Wednesday, but the early signs there are incredibly promising. From a Wednesday perspective, that's now another game where they failed to hit the back of the net. Wednesday have now failed to score in 8 of their previous 9 championship matches, which is a ridiculously damning statistic. 6 points from 16 matches. I just can't see any way back for them whatsoever. Vincel says difficult game against West Brom, but we played well. We did look second best in a lot of the second half, but I'm just glad the result went our way, and to see Ross Stewart back on the pitch. Yeah, we finally got to see Ross Stewart making his debut for Southampton after a massive period on the sidelines. Certainly think he can be someone to make more of an impact in this next stage of the season for the Saints. I had this one down as a pretty tight game. Thought that West Brom might have shaded it, and the Baggies probably had the better chances to go on and win this game in the second half, but Southampton were just that little bit more clinical, and the only real clear-cut chance I suppose they had in the second half, Adam Armstrong buried and put into the back of the net. It is a terrific run of form that the Saints currently find themselves on. Since the end of September, no championship team has accumulated more points than Southampton have. They've taken 20 points from their last 8 matches, which is an absolutely staggering return and has really propelled them into this promotion race, where I think a lot of us thought Southampton would have been at the start of the season. Bit unlucky for West Brom because I thought they put in a valiant display in this one and were certainly worthy of a point. It just didn't quite fall for them that way in the end. Then to finish things off, we had Watford beating Rotherham by 5-0. A convincing display from Valérien Ismaël's side in this one. A decent unbeaten run that Watford are now on going into this international break, and could this be the end of the road for Matt Taylor at Rotherham? There are some reports coming out at the moment, as of recording, claiming that Watford are actively seeking some managerial alternatives to Taylor, and ultimately it has been this disastrous away form that has been Taylor's undoing at Rotherham. That's now 8 away matches for Rotherham this season. Just 1 point they've taken from those matches, 3 goals scored and 21 conceded, and some awful underlying metrics to go along with that as well. Watford were able to take advantage on this occasion, and I mean, given that away form under Taylor right now, it's very hard to see Rotherham survive him. But I'd welcome some thoughts of some Rotherham fans down below. Do you think this is the right time to make a change managerially, or would you afford Taylor that little bit more time heading into Christmas? But guys, there we have it. That will now wrap it up for today's video. If you did go on to enjoy, make sure to leave a like and make sure to stick around and subscribe for some regular championship content. But from that though guys, thank you very much for tuning in, and I'll see you all in the next one.